In the last couple of videos, we've talked about a couple of different files. One is making an HTML file that is directly from just a text editor, either TextEdit on a Mac or Notepad on Windows, and one using Dreamweaver. And I mentioned with Dreamweaver that it's a lot like using Microsoft Word. You just type it in and you enter boldface, you enter what you want. A frequent question I get is, why do I not just use Word then? If Dreamweaver acts a lot like Word, well, we'll look at some of the things that Dreamweaver does, lots of things Dreamweaver does that Microsoft Word does not. But I just wanted to show making that same file with Microsoft Word to see what it does. First, let's look at the two files we already created. I'll open up Notepad. I'm going to drag it over to the right-hand side and drag in our text file. This is the one that we made with Notepad, or Mac users that you made with TextEdit. And here we have our file. We could even clean it up a little bit. Get rid of that space right there, no harm done either way. And we'll open up another copy of Notepad. And I will open up the one that I made with Dreamweaver. Now notice this right here. This is made with Dreamweaver, but it is still a simple text file. And both files are actually fairly similar. The one made with Dreamweaver has this doc type at the beginning, but they both have HTML, and they have a head with a title and the end of the head, a head with a title and the end of the head. This one also has the character set. We talked a little bit about that. The beginning of a body with hello world, with world being strong. Same thing over here on the TextEdit file or the Notepad file. We have our image. Over on Dreamweaver, it does a little bit more for us. That image also has not just the source, but the width and the height, and some alternate text for screen readers, or if you're using a portable device that's reading a web page to you. That's kind of nice to have. And then they both end the body and end the HTML. But fairly similar files. The Dreamweaver file adds a couple of extra things that I didn't add just to keep things simple with Notepad, but it keeps things fairly simple. Let's now go ahead and sure, I'll go ahead and save it. I made that one minor change to it. I'm now going to go ahead, open up Microsoft Word, and we're going to say hello world, and I will highlight world and I will boldface it. It's a whole lot like Dreamweaver. The bold's on the top instead of the bottom. Put a new line, even get my web image, and save it right there. Now you might not know this about Microsoft Word, but if I go to File and then Save As, one of the options it gives me is to save it as a web page. And I could go ahead even change the title of it, and I will call it my third web page. I could then go ahead and click OK. I'll put it on the desktop, and the file name would normally be index, but I will do index Word. That way we know that it's made from Microsoft Word, and I will save it. And then I can close Microsoft Word, and here it is, index Word. If I open it up, it opens it up in a web browser, and it looks just fine. It looks just fine. Before I show you details of that web page, though, I do want to show you, instead of using this web image right here, it created this folder up here, index Word files, and I open it up and it has a color scheme mapping, it has a file list, it has that image, and it has metadata. It's all sorts of other stuff. So the image right here, if I open that up, should just be that same image. So it had to make a copy of it. That's a little strange, but we can handle that. But let's go back to index Word. Looks the same, but remember we can right click and say view page source. Look at the source of this file. We just looked at the source of the other two files and they were very similar. This right here, it is saving it with some sort of Microsoft method. It's not standard at all. It will work in Internet Explorer. It might work in other browsers, but we can just keep going down and down and down on this file. And this file is tremendously long. In fact, it has the line numbers on the left-hand side, and it is 504 lines long. 504 lines long. If we look at the other ones, the index test, view page source, it's 12 lines. And that's with some spaces, though the Word file had that. And the one from Dreamweaver will be a little bit longer. It is, well, also 12, but there's not as many spaces in there. But you're talking 12 lines long versus for Microsoft Word, just with all of the added stuff that it puts in there, 504 lines. And most of this is simply not needed. What we'll find is Dreamweaver even has a tool to try to clean up some of this junk that Microsoft Word puts in. But let's just not use Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word is not a tool that we want to use when we're working on web development.